Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video on Raid Shadow Legends. Happy Monday. And in today's video, how are you guys doing on your champion proving ground? Is this something that you guys are continuing to work towards or not? I want to give my thoughts on this. I think I missed one day. I was quite busy yesterday, and I think I forgot to do it. So I think if you've been doing it every single day, you might be around here. But nonetheless, I started entering the stage, or the level 300 bosses, and boy, are they a lot harder than the 200 and the 250. I want to talk about some team comps and also just some game mechanics and some buffs that is really good to have in your roster. You might already have some of these. Maybe you haven't invested too heavily into some of these champions, but I want to talk about why these are some of the best that I've been using in Champion Proving Grounds, and not just here, but things that you will ultimately use in a lot of PvE content going forward. Now, before we get started with the rest of the video, I do want to remind people that if you haven't started playing Raid Shadow Legends yet, what are you waiting for? Download using the QR code in the top right hand of the screen to get King Galkabar absolutely free. Also, Venomage, Tagore, and Farrakhan the Fat, of course, at level 10, 20, and 30. Don't forget about your Pelops the Victor. All you got to do is use the promo code SUPERVICTORY within the first 48 hours of a brand new account. Let's talk about my team comp that I've been using primarily to get 3 stars on a lot of these missions. Now, yes, I understand that mileage will vary. My point is that I've been using 2 of the 9X champions. And then for this particular, the one thing that's been a staple in every single battle, though, has been my Furo the Barcore in here. Why? Because of his resistance buffs. I've been running what I call a res cheese lineup. So I have very high resistance. Furel stacks it up even higher, and then he also reduces accuracy by 50% as well. So I'm essentially in tandem. I'm lowering their accuracy, but I'm also raising my resistance to the point where I can largely ignore most of these encounters, at least from the bosses. One thing that I will say, and why I ended up only getting 2-star on some of these, is because these damn faction war hard bosses, also the potion keep, the minions, they actually ignore resistance. I think some of them, the debuffs are unresistible. So the only way to actually get around this is by using block debuffs. So I broke down because I just could not do it with 2 of the 9X characters, which is the Web of Corruption characters, and I'd have like none of the tier 2 champions other than Masahiro, who I have not built. My point is that there are 2 conditions that are really, really helpful that I have used Furo throughout the entire thing. But then I brought in Palace because she has block debuffs. So I'm just gonna, first of all, these guys at 300 have shit tons of speed. I actually had to move my gear around for my Donnie because I'm pretty sure he's not even fast enough. I don't know how much speed these guys have, but I think it's like at least 325. They're extremely fast. So for the purposes of showing you guys I had to move my gear around on Donnie to get ahead and then speed meter everyone else. I want to jump back a little bit to the 250s, though. We can kind of go back to some of these early stages here, especially here. And you can see that I ran Talena Solseer, and that was fine. But just for the sake of the video, I want to show you why this is really important. So actually, we could just leave Talena in there, but let's just fuck on it. So for the purposes of this, these minions, for example, a lot of them, I'm pretty sure they ignore resistances. Because even if I stack, I don't know, I don't know if it really matters that much. But even if I use Furel's like resistance buff, I'm pretty sure they still land it, right? I could provoke them. That doesn't really matter either. They might steal. No, 250 is pretty weak. Debuff block. Some of it resists. These potion keys guys over here with the heal reduction, though, this is unresistible. So this gets really, really bad on the 300 level. But even on the 250, depending on your gear, that matters too. I want to show you, though, like my Donatello, for example, has tons. Where's Donnie number 1? I have 514 resistance. Like, that is huge. Like, I don't know what the threshold is. This is because I also use him in Chimera. I also use him in Hydra. So I want to get his stats very high. Even just my average characters, like, where's Hecaton? He has 394. So that's still pretty high. Now, I don't use a resistance chest piece, but I do use a resistance banner. So when you're building for this, res cheese is very, very helpful. So again, I would chuck Palace into something like this because obviously she has block debuffs among Fervor and other things. She also benefits hugely by having another organized character in there, so that's another reason why I do that. I know that not everyone is going to have these characters, though. I'm not saying go out and get that because that's kind of near impossible. However, I do want to talk about characters that you could possibly have in your roster, right? So the number one thing when you're going in here, go into your champion vault and all that, include reserve vault, and then you can go and you can filter by these particular buffs. In this case, we'll start with resistance. Now, this one's a little bit harder to include because there's not so many, honestly, that have 50% resist buff on AoE. One character that you might have because she was a fusion champion, however, is Mavara. So for people who don't have Fural, Mavara might be your key to victory in a lot of this because she's really, really good as a support. As you guys know, she has this increased resistance and strengthen buff. A lot of people who have her, probably you're already using her, and that's great. And you might have found her have some value here in the champion proving ground because resistance is very good. Now, in my opinion, I find that if you don't need the revives that she has on her A3, I do find that Fural is a better overall support. If you ever have a chance to get Fural the Barkhorn, I do personally recommend this. He is amazing. His passive, he increases your resistance even further by 50, accuracy by 50, and damage for all allies by 20% if they're under 2, 3, or 4 buffs, which is pretty easy. I mean, he gets 2 right here, and if you're running any other buffers, then that shouldn't be too difficult to do. He has perfect Veil and resistance buff, but it's resistance for 3 turns. This can go up to 4 with masteries, actually, if you have this one here. I forget the name of it, but this one, 30% chance to extend the duration of any buff by +1. So you can actually get a resistance buff of 4 turns, which is pretty nice. And then also he has decreased accuracy and block buffs. And it also ignores resistance. And then if you're fighting just a single target boss, you can also put a slow as well, speed down. So he's a really great support champion to have if you ever get the chance to have that. But you can see on my roster, I only have 4. I'm not going to run Matthias Blackflail because I just don't think the rest of his kit is very good. But he does have increased resist buff overall. Now, I do like a Yumi Love. I don't know if you've seen this website. They got a list of basically all the characters, 50% increased resistance champions AoE. Now, 5 of these are mythicals, unfortunately. 2 of them are epics, Signy of High Shield and Xanth Seaflower. This is actually one of the fusion epics from Argonites, right? From one of the more recent fusions, but there's like 10 of them in the legendary category. And if you have any, excluding Matthias Blackflail, I just really don't think he's very good, but there are a couple of ones in here that aren't too bad, right? We have Diamant Coppercoin, he's from Ogren. I believe he's a Void legendary though. Feral, obviously. Gieth, the Truth Shield. Grezer, Iron Gut, Mavara, Oella is actually not bad. She was an old fusion character. Fidey Tealcrest, now I know that's a Void legendary Lizardman character, and Raf Matab. So there's not a ton of them, right? But if you ever are able to get your hands on other copies of any of these other characters, these are great characters to have for the champion proving grounds. Now, secondly, I want to talk, and you could res cheese all day long on a ton of different PvE content, because this is something that I regularly do. So, for example, one thing where I include Fural the Barkhorn all the time is in my top Hydra team. So even my Titus team actually uses Fural the Barkhorn as well, and also my top Chimera team, because if you have your resistance high enough, then you can largely, unless it's unresistible, you can largely ignore effects from a lot of PvE bosses, and this goes for lots of different places. That being said, what I'm currently up to in the Great Hall is actually upgrading my resistance now. Normally, the wisdom is typically to do accuracy first, crit damage second. It's up to you, but like resistance is going to be my third, just because I feel that everyone can benefit from plus 80 resistance, right? That's a lot. That's basically like having a resistance banner, more or less. This is a lot of stats. So this is something I'm working on. I'm only at plus 20 right now. I did max out Void resistance because I do have a lot of heavy hitters that I'm using in clan boss and things like that, but I'm slowly working my way in building this up for everyone else for the same reason. Resistance cheese is huge. Now, if you're not able to do that, or even to include with a resist cheese lineup, we need to talk about block debuffs. This is also really important, and there are much more characters that actually have this. So you can see here that many more legendaries and epics have the block debuffs skill, and this might be some characters that you might want to consider using in your runs, right? This is going to help you when you're doing the champion proving grounds and of course other places, but specifically these kind of unresistible debuffs, and also to just stop them from happening, right? So that's really important too. Now, Elva Autumnborn is the first one I landed on. She does have this, right? So you want to get some books in her, but she does remove debuffs from all allies. Great. It's also on a cooldown of 3, which is great. Places a block debuffs and speed up buff on everyone for 2 turns. If you have your chance to use her or have her, she is great to have. Of course, Glorious Palace, in my opinion, one of like an S tier support champion. I was lucky to have her, and she's the one that I'm using in Champion Proving Grounds too when I need to for those mechanics, because she removes all debuffs like Elva does, block debuffs, and a fervor debuff. Not speed up, but fervor. So if you have someone else that has speed up, that's preferable. And then whenever she takes her turn, everyone else gets 15% turn meter fill at the end of her turn. So having her as fast as possible. Also, I do use the A1 in combination with my other Argonauts. In this case, in the video, it was Hecaton, right? Which leads him to use his A1. So it's really good there. And also, she does have an AoE revive. And so if it's necessary, then there you go. But there's plenty of other characters, right? I have Operdine Clanfather. He's got to remove all block buffs and then places block debuffs for 2 turns. The only sad thing is that I don't have them booked, actually. Most of these are on a cooldown of 3. So you can, not all the time, but almost always have this up on most of your characters. Maybe there's one turn where you don't have this. Dune Herald Zaharis also has this as well, if you want to have him. Even some of the other characters. Now, Mausoleum Mage isn't so good because it's only block debuffs for 1 turn. However, for epic category based characters, is something that I wanted to put out. Also, Ayla Lifebraid has this, but again on a cooldown of 4, not 3. You're going to see this more on legendary characters that have this on a cooldown of 3. So again, Pythion, cooldown of 3. Cardial. If you ever have Cardial, he's pretty interesting. He's got block debuffs and revive on death. He also does an ally attack team up on a cooldown of 4 as well. He's a pretty interesting character that I use from time to time. But also some great examples of block debuffs you can see on the Ayumi Love website as well here for block debuffs. Now, of course, there's a bunch of characters in the mythical category I don't really want to talk about. You could pause the video if you want to take a look at some of these characters if you have any of them. Otherwise, I would just go into your roster and filter by this. Duchess Lilitu, of course, another great support character just off the top of my head here. Glacia's Soul Guide has had a rework. We have Freya Fate Weaver. Just some of the better ones I want to point out here. Nia, Spear of Nyresia, right? Really, really good. Even Rack of Viletide isn't too bad as well. Siphi the Lost Bride. Don't have to explain some of these ones like Underpriest Brogni, Togrin the Conjoined. Very, very good characters. There are some in the epics category, but I don't know how many of them that you would actually actively use for the purposes of Champion Proving Grounds. I do feel that it is very challenging content. So you're in the category where you kind of need to start using these legendaries. And if you don't have someone that can do this, you might want to chase up someone that can. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but what I mean by chase somebody up that can, I mean, maybe when you're doing progressives and you're considering what characters you want to add to that when you're pulling for other events, when you're pulling for Summon Rush or for Champion Chase or whatever it is, then maybe you should consider filling in the gaps of your roster if you don't have some of these mechanics, because these are the two. I'm not going to say Champion Proving Grounds is the most important thing in the world right now because it's temporary content. It probably will come back in some form, but these are mechanics and buffs that are really important to have on your team. Increased resistance, block debuffs have proven to be the 2 most important things, in my opinion, in Champion Proving Grounds and beyond, right? Clan bosses, Curse of the City hard mode, these kinds of things that are really, really, really worth having around. I'm gonna need to find a way, if possible, to I don't know if I'll get these 3 stars on this. We'll see how far I end up getting. Right? I'm on the 3rd page here on the rewards. I'm hoping to at least get some of these. My thoughts overall on this content is I enjoy the challenge. However, I don't like the randomness of the accessories because realistically, the only good ones are going to be like Protection and Merciless, right? Maybe some Supersonic. But aside from that, I hate the non-9-piece sets. And I think what's going to be better is going to be these relic materials. I think are more worthwhile to chase after. And then later on, maybe later this week, we will do a video about crafting them up and see how many of the special relics that we do end up getting. Anyways, guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. How many increased resistance buff champions do you have? How many block buffs, sorry, block debuffs champions do you have? Do you have any really good ones? Let me know about those in the comments down below. And if I missed anything that you'd like to kind of point out as it relates to Champion Proving Grounds, let me know as well. Now, before we go, I do want to remind people that if you haven't started playing Raid yet, what are you waiting for? Get out from under that rock, download using the QR code, get King Galkabar, get Venom Mage Tagore, and Farrakhan the Fat at accounts level 10, 20, and 30. Don't forget about your pal, Palos the Victor, from the Argonites faction. Hey, another character who could work with Glorious Palace. Use the promo code SUPERVICTORY within the first 48 hours of a brand new account. That's it for me, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and you'll be greatly helping out the channel. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.